We're now going to have a little look at the circulatory system. So we have blood, which is made up of plasma. So this accounts for about 55% of your total blood volume. It contains waters, salts, hormones and sugars. We have platelets or thrombocytes. These are cell fragments responsible for the control of bleeding and the clotting of blood process. Red blood cells, which are erythrocytes, they account for 44% of total blood volume, and they're manufactured in the bone marrow and carry hemoglobin, or oxygen-rich blood. Hemoglobin is ultimately responsible for the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. White blood cells, or leukocytes, account for the remaining 1% of the total blood volume, and they're responsible for immunity, so they fight disease and infection, little sort of soldier cells. Here we have a blood vessel network. It shows the red oxygenated blood and the blue deoxygenated blood in veins and arteries. Away from the major veins and arteries, we have something called the venular and arterial field, and this is just where the arteries and veins get smaller and smaller and eventually end up as capillaries around muscles. Here's the structure of an artery. So arteries always take blood away from the heart. That's the definition of an artery. Most arteries have thick muscular walls and they are under high pressure. They are elastic in the way they work. They usually carry oxygenated blood except for the pulmonary artery. And the arteries then become arterioles and then finally capillaries. The capillary is only one cell thick, so really, really thin, and that allows you diffusion of oxygen to and CO2 from the muscles. We're now looking at veins. So veins always take blood towards the heart, that's the definition. They have thin walls, and if you look in the middle of that cross-section diagram, you'll see that there are some non-return valves there. They have peristalsis, which means that the muscle contracts, and they usually carry deoxygenated blood except for the pulmonary vein. And then we have capillaries, venules and veins in the reverse order. The heart, which is located in the chest, slightly to the left of centre, it's about the size of a fist, the average heart, and its function is to pump blood around the body. The circulatory system continued now with the heart. If we look at it, it's split into four. In one of the earlier slides, you'll see that I actually do a drawing of a heart as a square, and you can see now how that works. Blood always flows from the atrium into the ventricle, and in both left and right, and always flows downwards. Here's a more complicated version of the heart, but it works exactly the same. Pulmonary vein, bringing blood into the left atrium, which is oxygenated. It then passes into the left ventricle and is pumped from the big left ventricle out to the arterial field via the aorta. We then see deoxygenated blood returning via the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava into the right atrium, and then flowing into the right ventricle, only to be pumped out through the pulmonary artery to return to the lungs and to get oxygenated again and return via the pulmonary vein. So a little diagram here that shows a pulsing effect of oxygen-rich blood from the lungs, and then one of the CO2-rich blood from the body. So the cardiorespiratory system, you can see this fairly simple diagram of the way oxygen diffusion takes place. CO2 then return, or CO2-rich blood returning to the heart via the vena cava. So just a little diagram to help you to understand it. We have this pump, suck, other diagram now, which illustrates muscle pump action in the lower leg. This helps to prevent blood pooling, which is why we should always gently cool down rather than just stopping straight away. We have the pump action of smooth muscle. We have the sucking action of the diaphragm and the sucking action of the right atrium. And then we have non-return valves and gravity from areas above the heart that help the blood to flow downwards.